Primal Fear, Gregory Hoblet's 1996 film based on the William Dale novel of the same name, is probably my favorite legal thriller, if you want to put that in a category of its own. Legal thriller, courtroom thriller, however you want to put it. It's a great movie, and it's one that I've gone back to many, many times. I've seen this movie quite a few times, and always find something new to like about it. And that's not always something you could say about these types of movies. These legal courtroom thrillers with, twists and turns. We have a determined lawyer, we have a defendant, and it's either amounting to guilty, not guilty, the end. And once you see it the one time over, there's not too much use in going over it again. No more surprises. This movie is definitely full of surprises, but kind of what keeps me going back is how well it approaches its characters, and how much there is going on in the story, and kind of what we can take from it is quite chilling, I think, and really compelling. Um, this, came from a time when this type of movie was especially in demand. Like, this is 1996, kind of the mid 90s. Not just because this was kind of prime time. The 90s was prime time for, like, the John Grisham adaptations, right? So we saw so many of those movies, but also definitely what I think led to a demand in the type of courtroom dramas, thrillers, dealing with, law and criminal procedures, things like that. It definitely had to be, the OJ case, OJ Simpson's trial, which, was a huge, huge thing. In particular, I think there might have been an appetite to see the kind of lawyer who is a defense attorney who's defending kind of these bad people, these so clearly guilty kind of people, right? Like, what kind of makes a character like that tick? So I think that's kind of what Primal Fear is able to respond to or deliver on with Richard Gere's character, Martin Vale, who is just that. He's a defense attorney who specializes in kind of helping out these creeps, and I think it's a really good approach to this type of character, and kind of a unique one, because I mean, definitely you can look at the movie and kind of see certain cliches arise a little bit, but I think there is more to the surface of it, uh, because of course we have Martin Vale, his character, seemingly kind of this character we've seen before of the lawyer who is just focused on his work. Doesn't matter to him whether the client is guilty or innocent. It's all about his version of the truth. And as the movie opens, he's kind of speaking about himself and his career, and making little jokes like, if you want justice, go to a whorehouse. If you want to get fucked, go to court. And next time your mother tells you she loves you, get a second opinion. Things like that. And he believes that any client, as long as they can afford it, is entitled to the best defense, to his defense. He's the best at what he does, and that's this character, and he's in the limelight. He's definitely enamored with kind of the prospects of fame and prominence, and seeing himself in the news, and getting interviewed for magazines, which is kind of what starts up the movie. And As we see this character, as we're introduced to him, he's we're seeing kind of just the tail end of a very big kind of career making case where he had defended a client, Joey Pinheiro, who's played by Stephen Bauer from Scarface, who's pretty much known to everyone as kind of this criminal, this sort of aggrandized hood, sort of, I guess, and he had been assaulted by police officers, left for dead, and he's getting him this big settlement, in working with the state attorney, Shaughnessy, played in a great role by John Mahoney, from Frasier, which is great. He's great in this role, and he had previously worked with Shaughnessy, and he kind of branched off on his own, started his own career, defense attorney, and we kind of learn a little bit about him and that what he was kind of being meant to do in that position with the state attorney. Wasn't sitting right with him. And what we do kind of learn a little bit about this Pinheiro character is that in his own way, he is kind of working for the better of his community, in kind of fighting off the big real estate developers who want to build condominiums in these, poor, disenfranchised neighborhoods who, don't have anyone to stand up for them. So we kind of begin to wonder if this is something that Vale is conscious of and he's responding to, and if he really is an idealist at heart. So that's kind of what we're trying to figure out about this character, where maybe he isn't just this jaded, just to the point kind of lawyer. Maybe he does believe in the best in people. Maybe he does really want to help people, and that's kind of the surface that we're trying to scratch with the character. And the whole movie, it is about kind of in working with his themes of people who wear different faces. There's a quote by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Well, they kind of softened it a little bit for the tagline of the film, which they translate to, sooner or later, a man who wears two faces forgets which one is real. That's kind of the tagline of the movie that you kind of see on all the covers and posters and stuff like that. So that's what they're working with. But this Vale character, he's definitely kind of a tough nut to crack, and kind of what sets it off is this big case that he pursues, seemingly within the intent to further his celebrity, to further his prominence, get a big case, all the more, coverage and all the more magazine interviews, things like that, where a young man is arrested for the murder of the church's Archbishop Rushman, who is brutally killed, hacked to pieces, eyes gouged out, lettering carved into his chest. Really nasty stuff, really heinous stuff. And this young man, right at the scene when it happened. So, I mean, he's so obviously guilty that it seems like kind of like a slam dunk for the state attorney, who is working to get the death penalty for him. But Vale shows up in the cell, offers pro bono representation, and the case is his. And then he's kind of led into this rabbit hole of corruption and evil and fear, and never really comes out the same. With all kind of the twists in the movie. I mean, I gotta stay away from spoilers. Like, this movie, while it's 25 years old at this point, um, it has well, actually quite a few different twists, but a really good twist to it, or reveal, or however you want to put it. Um, but there's just on one hand, it's old enough. If you haven't seen it already, it's your fault, I guess. But then again, it's like not so, I guess, famous of a twist that everyone knows it, so you may as well talk about it. You know what I mean? Like Psycho. Everybody knows the twist of that movie. Sixth Sense. Everyone knows the twist of that movie, and things like that. But I'll keep away from revealing. I'll definitely get into some stuff, but I'll kind of keep the big twists secret, I guess, just in case you're watching this and you just want to kind of hear someone's opinion on the film and you haven't seen it yourself. So I'll keep that at bay. I won't give away the big reveals because I'd hate to be the one to spoil it for you because it's really good. I mean, in watching it again, I just watched it recently to get it fresh in my mind for doing this review. Even a dozen times, it still really hits. It still is really effective and it's really good. But there's also just the fact that there's kind of levels of twists, like so it's also kind of hard to talk about in that we're just kind of kept on our toes thinking one thing, thinking another thing, and all that kind of stuff. So it is kind of difficult to get into the real meat of the twists. But regardless of that, it is in the fact that you can still watch it over again. Its focus is on the character and kind of the relationships between all the characters. They do feel so genuine. Like we have Martin Vale, and he has his own kind of team, his small but devoted, hardworking team, with a private investigator played by Andre Brower. From Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and kind of an earlier role of his. He's great, and there's kind of this ongoing gag where he has to work allegedly into his vocabulary, which leads to some funny moments. And Maura Tierney, the lovely and amazing Maura Tierney, playing his law clerk, paralegal, long-suffering assistant, I guess, and the kind of bond, the camaraderie, the working relationship between this trio, it does feel very genuine. Like there is a history between these three, and it works very well and is very convincing. And there is a romantic subplot as well between Vale and Janet Venable, played by Laura Linney, the great Laura Linney, who had worked with Vale previously at Shaughnessy's office, and he branched out, she stayed. They had an affair at one point, kind of fizzled out, but he's still kind of pursuing her in a way, and there's still definitely an attraction between the two. And well, you can guess it. She's the one who takes the opposing case. So the fate of this young man wanted for the death penalty for the murder of the Archbishop, it's in the hands between these two kind of opposing would-be lovers. And without really saying it, I mean, there's definitely an excitement to the fact that they're both kind of against each other. It is kind of this interesting face-off that has this romantic undercurrent to it, this sexual tension to it, which is really, really good. And it is, ultimately, it is a moving relationship between the two, and how, in this rough ragtag world of law and prosecution and just terrible things, these two kind of have found each other, which is it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. And the cast, I mean, overall, it's excellent. Again, I mean, seeing John Mahoney in kind of a role that's so kind of villainous, antagonistic. I think it's really, really appealing, and I think he's so good at it. I wish he would have done more roles like that, but here in Primal Fear, he really kind of shines as this threatening, powerful, and corrupt character that he plays, that also kind of faces off against Vale with some mutual respect between the characters, but also definitely some animosity between the two, and kind of an old score to settle, and things that kind of really heat up with the Joey Pinheiro case. That kind of has more than meets the eye. It kind of reveals a little bit more, and of course, this is an incredible debut film role performance from Edward Norton. This is his first movie. I mean, no one knew who he was at this time. This is his debut film performance, and he's excellent, absolutely excellent. And he was nominated for an Oscar for it. He won the Golden Globe for it, playing Aaron Stampler. Kind of this. On one hand, it's like it's so perfect that he seems so obvious to be the killer, covered in blood right at the scene. But then you get a good look at him, and it's like this kid, he's literally a choir boy, and he seems so, sweet and innocent. So could he have done this? I mean, what are the alternatives to this? And that's kind of what's explored in the film, with his kind of ever growing trust relationship with Martin Vale as his lawyer, and all that he begins to find out. So I mean, there's a lot that Vale uncovers, and that it's a movie that, in pursuing these possibilities of his guilt, of his innocence, whatever it may be, there's pretty much no stone unturned. He is, or was, a choir boy at the church. He knew the Archbishop. Would he have motive to kill him? Would others have motive to kill the Archbishop? We learn a little bit more about the Archbishop and his own life and his own dealings, and we're kind of meant to wonder, could Stampler have been a patsy for some different motives behind his murders? So all that is kind of investigated in the film, and we really kind of go down this morbid rabbit hole where we do wonder that. We wonder if this kid did do it, why did he do it? If this kid did do it, is there some skewed psychological reason for it? Could there possibly maybe be even a supernatural reason for it? You kind of begin to wonder how far this movie is going to go. So I mean, that's delightful, and really kind of the way it plays it all out, it is done so expertly, and in watching it multiple times, it still has a superb ability to kind of pull you into it, even though you kind of know what's in watching it multiple times, you kind of know what's gonna result in, but it still just sucks you in, which it's a hard thing for a movie like this to do, where we do have kind of the required elements of a movie like this. We have the setup, we have the courtroom arguments, we have the final kind of judge decision and all that. So what kind of keeps you going back to it? I think it does it well, and in praise for Edward Norton, who's terrific. His debut film. Also worth noting is that this is the debut directorial effort of a film for Gregory Hoblit, who had previously worked in television drama. So he worked on things like Hill Street Blues, NYPD Blue, L.A. Law, stuff like that. So kind of like perfect material for a director like this. And you know, you watch it and you think this couldn't be a first-time director, at least for a film, but it absolutely is. It's a very impressive debut, and he went on to direct some pretty good thrillers after this as well, like Fallen, which was also a really good, kind of underrated thriller, I think. And definitely there's good source material at the heart of it all. The William Deal novel, which it is actually the first entry in a trilogy. The Martin Vale trilogy, I guess you call it, is Primal Fear, Show of Evil, and Reign in Hell. Those are the three Martin. I'm not quite sure the reasoning. If I don't know, maybe there just wasn't an interest for it, or most involved with this film, you know, just had moved on to other things. But I don't know, never really caught on. You know, in the way, like, you know, I don't know, like a Jack Ryan, Alex Cross, whatever, you know, kind of like continuing book-based series that we've seen others do, unfortunately. But maybe it's not too late. I mean, maybe they could bring us a sequel to Primal Fear. You know, let us know what's going on all these years later. I mean, characters from this story, they do return for those other two stories, so, you know, without giving away too much, but obviously Martin Vale is at the center of it all, and you know, Richard Gere, he ages like a fine wine. I think he could, I think he'd take on the role again. That might be interesting to see. I'd kind of like to see that, because, you know, there's more that is explored, and it does kind of get into kind of more kind of, I don't know, a deeper kind of insidiousness that is kind of only just, I don't know, percolating a little bit in this movie. So it would be interesting to see if they were able to do it. I don't know, but that'd be something I'd like to see. But it's definitely A+ stuff we're dealing with here. Great characters, great performances, just a really, really entrancing plot, and, you know, production value is superb. Great music, James Newton Howard. You know, Gere is great. Laura Linney's great. Also Frances McDormand in the movie. She's terrific as well, playing a psychiatrist, kind of trying to figure out this Stampler boy. And, you know, it really kind of, I mean, at the end of it all, whether you can attribute certain things to psychological reasons, maybe paranormal reasons, what it ultimately deals with is a very real, very earthly type of evil that has no explanation, that has no real justification, and is simply primal. And that's scary. And that's what it kind of ends with in its shocking final moments. And that's what kind of leaves you with the chill that it does. And it's a movie worth revisiting, I think. Even when knowing all the twists, you kind of come back for the characters, for the story that's very good. So it's definitely something that I always go back to. And if you haven't seen it, I highly, highly recommend it. Hopefully I didn't give away too much with this review, but it's, you know, just, it's top tier stuff from all the talent involved, especially if you like these kinds of movies, like the legal thriller, investigation, procedural kind of stuff, with all the twists and turns along the way. You just can't find a better movie than Primal Fear. So that's my review. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, I'll see you later.